dice and just compromise. It's the chance of your life. Okay, try to be brave. You have so much to save. Take control of your own life. Right now, every mistake makes you feel like a fake. Take control of your own life. Without any thought, I keep moving on. I don't even care if my soul is gone. So many words that I should have said. Not concerned about how to live instead. Just open your eyes and take my advice. Stop rolling the dice and just compromise. It's the chance of your life. Okay, try to be brave. You have so much to save. Take control of your own life. Right now, every mistake makes you feel like a fake. Take control of your own life. Nothing in life is good. Tied in with I feel better on the weekend.
Welcome to Cyber Threat Intel, your go-to source for the latest updates, news, and insights on cyber threats. Our goal is to arm you with the knowledge to protect yourself in the digital age, whether you're a cybersecurity professional or just curious about the threats lurking in the digital shadows. Make sure to subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast listening platform to join us on the front lines of cybersecurity, because in the world of cyber threats, knowledge is power. Welcome to episode number 15 of Cyber Threat Intel. I'm your host, John Good. It's April 10th, 2024. It's a Wednesday. So we are crossing the halfway mark for the week. Couldn't be more excited. Couldn't be more excited to have you joining me if you're joining live, if you're watching on the replay, however you're listening to the content. I appreciate you, and I'm glad that you decided to tune in. So if this is the first time that you're tuning in to this show, then welcome, first of all. Glad to have you. But typically what we do is we give people a few minutes to log on, to get onto the stream, to tune in. So grab a drink, grab a snack, something to get you through. And then once we give people a few minutes, then we go ahead and we hop into the show and cover all the information that we need to cover. So one thing that I'll make a point of too with this episode today, we are going to have an after show. So if you're looking to get questions answered or anything like that, we do occasionally have after shows. So we're trying to make that a habit as far as a few episodes per week. But we will have an after show after the content for this one. If you want to find the show, depending on where you're trying to find the show at, right? There's a lot of different ways you can listen to the show or catch the show, but a couple different ways. So this particular episode is being live streamed to the John Good Cyber YouTube channel, as well as John Good Cyber LinkedIn. So my profile, the John Good Cyber Twitter profile or X profile, as well as the John Good Cyber page on Facebook. So you can find the video, the live stream format on those platforms. If you want to listen to the audio version, so you're maybe more of a podcast fan, right? Well, you can go to your favorite podcast platform, your Spotify, iTunes, whatever. There's a whole bunch of them, right? But you can go on there and search for Cyber Threat Intel. You'll be able to find us. Or if you go to cyberthreatintel.com, then you'll be able to find all the platforms that we're on there as well. Also, a benefit of going to the website is that you can get the article feed, so all the articles that we cover in the shows, in the episodes, also articles that we don't cover, right? But they're important to read and just be aware of that we put on that feed. You can access that there as well. So that's really important. You can see all the highlights. If there's any notes or anything that we put in there, then that is a very valuable resource as well. So again, that's on the website, cyberthreatintel.com. If you have professional certifications, so if you have a CISSP or a Security Plus, and Jagat says, thanks, sir. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. If you have professional certifications, so CISSP, Security Plus, whatever it is, right? Like there's a whole bunch of certifications out there that you could have. A lot of them require that you get CPEs or continuing education credits, go to webinars, do those kinds of things, whatever the case is, right? So with this show, you can actually claim half a CPE for every show. So over the year, right, if you attend all the shows, you'll have more than enough CPEs to maintain your certifications. And then you just have to pay that lovely renewal fee that so many of the certification vendors require, right? But that is a good free way to maintain your certifications. Don't wait till the end of the year, right? It's a great idea throughout the year to be racking up the CPEs. Makes it way easier to maintain your certifications. You don't have to scramble at the very end. I know what that's like. That is a difficult thing to do if you wait till the very end, and it's just not worth it, right? Maintain your certifications throughout the year and stay ahead of the game. Again, half a CPE for every credit. 8-Bit says, hello. Hey 8-Bit Oni. Glad to have you here. Says, nice. I need to start getting that so I can maintain my CYSA. Yeah. I mean, CYSA Plus, the CAS Plus, Security Plus, Network Plus, CISSP, SSCP. What else is there? There's so many that require continuing education credits. CISM, CISA, CRISC, right? There's so many different ones that are out there now. So help yourself out by maintaining those. And 8-Bit Oni says, first need to learn how to claim it. Yep, with CompTIA. It's pretty easy. They'll give you information as far as logging into their portal, just like all of the different certification vendors. And then you'll be able to submit it right there. It'll just give you options as far as like who provided it, where did you access it, how many credits are you claiming, what date are you claiming it for, all those kinds of things, right? So a lot of times you can do a whole bunch of certifications at once, but honestly, I would do them as you get them. So fill it out. If you get a half a CPE today, I would just go fill it out right away and just take care of that. Also, the thing that I always tell people is that with this stream, with this show, we do have a chat on the screen. So if you go in there and you actually put in a message, so you kind of immortalize yourself in the stream, that's very helpful if they ever come back and audit you. Every once in a while, they will audit people just to hold people accountable, make sure people are being honest. And that way, if you do get audited, you have something in the stream that's literally proof of you being here and not just saying that you showed up to the stream, right? So that is very, very useful in that process for sure. So also, make sure to get your Cyber Threat Intel merch or just your John Good Cyber merch. And if you're on the audio podcasting platforms, you probably won't see me holding up a mug for Cyber Threat Intel, but that is a very good thing to grab as well. We have a bunch of different cool designs, so highly recommend getting that stuff. And we have a LinkedIn user that says, hello, Woot, I'm covered. It's kind of weird with LinkedIn how it initiates with the chat. Like it'll only do read only, so it'll get your messages, but it looks like that you'll need to actually either put your name in the chat, right, if you're LinkedIn, or go over to the YouTube channel and do it that way as well, right? Just some way so it's easily identifiable who is leaving the message, right? Even I guess on YouTube, you'll have a username or something, so it won't exactly be the same. But yeah, so with that being said, we still have a few people that are hopping on the stream. So we want to give people a few more minutes to hop on. And while we do that, we're going to take a second to talk about our sponsor for this episode, and that is Cyber Training Pro. So I will see you on the other side of this ad. Are you tired of overpaying for cybersecurity training? Are you interested in training from industry professionals? Are you looking for cybersecurity career services? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then cybertrainingpro.com is the perfect platform for you. At Cyber Training Pro, we're a one-stop shop for all your cybersecurity needs. We can train you for industry certifications or just improve your overall knowledge and skills in a certain area. Unlike other platforms, we don't stop there. We can also coach you throughout your career, practice your interview skills, or create a high-performing resume with our career services. CybertrainingPro.com isn't just another training platform. Students get exclusive access to our private community where we go beyond training courses to provide additional content, tips and tricks, and engagement with both other students and staff. Look, by the year 2025, there could be as many as 3.5 million job openings in cybersecurity. With so much opportunity, why not maximize your career potential with a platform that cares about your success? Come join us at cybertrainingpro.com and start building your future today. All right, thanks to Cyber Training Pro for that. We love our sponsors. Sponsors are what make the content possible. They help support us so that we can provide you great content, and especially content like this that's free, right? Free to everybody that's viewing it on YouTube. And so that is really important. We always want to say thank you to our sponsors. We highly recommend that you also say thank you to our sponsors just to show your support. And if you are a business and you are a company and you're stumbling upon the show and you want to sponsor any kind of content, then definitely check out the description. There is more information about how you can initiate that conversation and get that conversation started so you can sponsor content and help support what we do, right? It's always great to be able to give content to people, high quality content that is it's well produced. So Jeffrey Christian says hello again, switch to YouTube. Yeah. So that must have been you on the LinkedIn side. So I'm not sure why it doesn't show that. All these different platforms are kind of weird with what they allow and what they will actually display on the chat. So, but and 8-Bit Oni says, do you give out the CEU information at the end of the video? And Jeffrey says, yep, that was me. 8-Bit Oni. So there is no like actual information for it. When you go on to your CompTIA portal, for instance, since you were talking about CYSA Plus, it will ask you specifically what you attended. So typically, the best thing you're going to do is take like the title and of the stream, include the link in there as well, and it'll ask you a few questions, and you just kind of fill it out, date, things like that. And it's really easy. It'll make sense when you actually see the fields that you have to fill out. So, yep. Thinking there's maybe a code or something. Yep. Nope. No code. But definitely, I would provide, especially if you're doing it like individually, then I would provide the link to the stream, just so it's it's evidence in there. So, with that being said, we are going to hop over to the articles here. And as a reminder, I said it before, and I'll say it again, I'm sure, throughout the stream at some point, but we are having an after show after this content. So if you have questions or anything like that after the fact, then make sure to stick around. Yep. And Jeffrey says, yep, CompTIA and ISC squared both require a link and title. Just have to fill out the form each time. Yeah. So absolutely. Cool. All right. So hopping over here to my screen, the first article here that we have, Microsoft Patch Tuesday Tsunami. No 0 days, but an asterisk. Microsoft outdid it with itself this month's Patch Tuesday releases, which contains no 0 day patches, though at least one of the patches addresses a flaw already being actively exploited. Products affected by the most recent Patch Tuesday updates include Windows and Windows components, Azure, .NET Framework, and Visual Studio, SQL Server, DNS Server, Windows Defender, BitLocker, and Windows Secure Boot. Microsoft's April update includes 147 CVEs, 3 rated critical, 142 categorized as important, and 2 listed as moderate in severity. That number swells to 155 CVEs if third-party flaws are included. The number represents a record high for Patch Tuesday fixes. Let's see here. This also says Childs pointed to the max severity vulnerability in Smart Screen Prompt Security Bypass feature bypass CVE 2024-29988 with a CVSS score of 8.8, which was already discovered by ZDI, but wasn't listed as exploited in Microsoft's Patch Tuesday update. Another max severity bug impacting the remote procedure call runtime remote code execution vulnerability, CVE 2024-20678, was given a CVSS score of 8.8 and patched this month by Microsoft. A spoofing vulnerability, and this is the third one here, CVE 2024-20670, listed as max severity with a base CVSS score of 8.1, so a little bit lower severity, was fixed in Outlook for Windows, and a Windows DNS Server remote code execution, also listed as max severity CVE 2024-26221, with a CVSS score of 7.1, was patched as well. So, if you're not familiar with Microsoft's Patch Tuesday, they are famous for it, right? Everybody kind of knows that Microsoft has their Patch Tuesday because then you also have Exploit Wednesday, right? So with patching in general, one of the things you have to be focused on and have in place is some kind of patch management strategy. One of the things that you'll see if you're new to the career field, or if you haven't been in the career field for very long, if you've been in the career field, you've probably seen this, but you can't just deploy patches all at once, right? That's a good way to break things. We saw that with, I believe McDonald's, right? Somebody tried to patch something or roll out a configuration and update all at once, their third party, and it started crashing things and whole big mess, right? That happens, right? So typically what you're going to do is you're going to roll things out in waves, right? You'll test it, and then you'll roll it out to a small user base or small system base, and then you'll see what happens. If things break, then you'll pull it back and you'll start working on why that happened. If it works and nothing happened, then you'll keep rolling it out in continued waves. That's just standard patch management 101, because if you break it in production, that could cause bad things for you. That could be a lot of issues. And Your Asian Sports says, love from Pakistan. It's 5:25 a.m. there. That is very early. I am glad to see that we have people from all over the world. I love seeing people from different countries that are joining in on this, and really getting people from all over, right? Love seeing that diverse audience that's tuning in. 8-bit Oni says, but breaking things in production is fun. JK, LOL.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Except when you break things and, really it's a bad day when you break things, right? You start having all kinds of issues. You have things that you have to fix. Maybe you're on call and all of a sudden things keep breaking. You have to stay late, work all those extra hours. It's a bad time, right? It is not it's not all that fun to break things, right? But it's technology. That does happen, but you have to be aware of that. And then also based on severity, right? You're going to have different severities. So a high severity, a critical severity, medium severity, whatever, right? And those severities impact the how fast that you apply patches or that you start rolling out patches, right? If it's a critical update, a critical patch, critical flaw, something like that, then you're going to try to get that out really quickly. You're not going to take a bunch of time to just start kind of thinking about it. So always a good discussion to have for sure. Next article here, hackers use malware to hunt software vulnerabilities. Many threat actors are turning to malware to scan software vulnerabilities that they can use in future cyber attacks. Security researchers at Unit 42, the threat intelligence branch of cybersecurity provider Palo Alto Networks, discovered a significant number of malware-initiated scans among the scanning attacks that they detected in 2023. And Your Asian Sports says, I'll love if you explain 10 to 15 specializations in master's programs, or even more if you can. We're definitely not going to cover 10 to 15 specializations. That is just so many. But if you have questions, make sure to hang out for the after show, and we can talk about some different specializations or different things. We can walk through some of the questions that people have with that after show. So make sure to hang out after that. Back to the article here. Vulnerability scanning is a widespread reconnaissance step for malicious actors willing to deploy cyber attacks. Like port scanning and operation system or OS fingerprinting, vulnerability scanning involves initiating network requests in an attempt to exploit the potential vulnerabilities of the target host. We basically know what vulnerability scanning is, right? Like if you're new to the industry, well then vulnerability scanning basically identifies or tries to identify issues or vulnerabilities that exist. Typically, then we start talking about the discussion of vulnerability assessments and penetration tests and where that line crosses as far as trying to actually exploit those vulnerabilities. But essentially, at its core, that's what it is, right? It's trying to find vulnerabilities in systems or in networks. However, Unit 42 researchers have noticed that in 2023, a growing number of threat actors conducted their vulnerability scanning activity from a previously compromised host. So that is a key thing here with this particular article, right? So it's not necessarily that the attacker is scanning from their personal system, right? They are essentially pivoting. They're infecting or compromising some host, and then they're launching that scan from that other host, from that infected device. This type of malware-based vulnerability scanning allows for a more stealthy and efficient endeavor. By using a compromised host, threat actors can cover the traces more easily, bypass geofencing, expand the bot networks or botnets they're using, and leverage the resources of these compromised devices to generate a higher volume of scanning requests compared to what they could achieve using only their devices. Yeah, so let's break this down a little bit, right? And Jeffrey Christian says, so they got nmapped. Fair point. So if you don't know what nmap is a very common scanning tool that a lot of attackers, even professionals in this industry will use, right? So, and then 8-bit Oni says, time to break out Nessus, LOL. That's right. And if you need to know how to use Nessus, I do have a video on the channel, so make sure that you check out how to use that. But let's talk about some of these things that this talks about. So what are the benefits of being able to use an infected host? Well, cover the traces more easily, right? Because again, the attack or the scan is not coming from the attacker themselves. It's coming from somebody's refrigerator or something like that, where they're just launching a scan from that system, right? Some infected host. Bypass geofencing. So think about this. This is kind of like VPNs, right? That VPN discussion. So if you're in a country where certain content is blocked on the internet, you can use a VPN to get into another system or through another proxy so that it appears that you're in, let's say, the United States, right? That's a very common use for a VPN. It's the exact same thing with this, right? Except typically with geofencing, you might be talking about within an organization or on a organization's network within their campus or something like that. It could be a country, right? But a lot of times it's within a certain network or certain parameters, certain IP range, those kinds of things, right? Expand the bot networks, the botnets. So yeah, with this is essentially going to most likely be part of a botnet. So a bunch of infected systems that are controlled by a single attacker or several attackers, but it's within a specific network of these bots that are controlled through a C2 server, command and control server, and then leverage the resources of the compromised devices. So then you're able to leverage that computing power of all these different devices, these infected devices, to launch a whole bunch of scans, either at one system, take down that system, right? Denial of service or distributed denial of service, or you can scan a whole bunch of different systems at once and generate a whole bunch of different traffic at once from all these different devices, right? There's a whole bunch of scenarios where that could be the case. So it's kind of one of those things, right? The more systems that you have at your disposal, the more potential things that you could do. And then because it's not you performing the scan or the attacker performing the scan, it's a little easier to cover your tracks, right? Especially if it's somebody's like refrigerator or something. Article also says, in this model, attackers infect a device and use its resources to perform scanning. We already kind of talked about that, right? The researchers explained, and this is a quote, typically once a device gets compromised by malware, this malware beacons to attacker control and command C2 domains for instructions. Threat actors can instruct the malware to perform scanning attacks. Yeah, so that's what C2 servers are. If you've never heard that term before, so a command and control server, command and control domain, essentially it is this network of systems or a system that reaches out to an attacker controlled server or system, and that system is then giving instructions to all these bots or to the botnet, so the network of bots or infected systems. And then those systems then go carry that out, right? Like that is what a botnet is. So very interesting article whenever attackers are able to leverage these large networks of attacks. Bad for everybody else, right? But interesting from an analysis standpoint and an intelligence standpoint. So your Asian Sport says, why Nmap block IP? So it can be very difficult to block IP addresses if you're using infected systems, right? How do you know those systems are infected or that they're going to be trying to scan you? There's so many IP addresses out there, it's basically impossible to actually identify that. And Jeffrey Christian says, VPN to AWS, spin up a box, VPN into company air conditioner, scan for exploitable way to jump to main network. Sounds like Target all over again.
Yes.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. That is a very, very valid point, right? So if you aren't familiar with the Target attack and how that all came about, what was that like? Is that like 7 years ago or something now? I can't remember exactly when that happened. It's been a while, right? But maybe it was even a little bit more than that. But yeah, IoT devices, connected devices within your company, those are totally exploitable, and those are very vulnerable typically, right? And we can talk about that more later. But yeah, you have to patch all your systems, not just the computers. Yeah, Jeffrey says 2016 or 2017. That's what I was trying to think in my head of when that was. So yeah, 8 years ago. So it's been a while. I mean, there's been other attacks since then that kind of cloud the brain, but yeah, that was definitely a very high profile attack, one that we still talk about today, obviously, right? So you should go back and research that if you're not familiar with that attack, or if that's kind of before your cybersecurity time, because again, that is very that is something that is still in the discussions that we're having today. So great. I love it. Great insight. Great drop in there, Jeffrey. All right, let's keep moving here. Google Workspace to use AI for data security. Google's recently announced a significant upgrade to its Workspace platform, integrating cutting-edge artificial intelligence, so AI technology, to enhance meetings and bolster data security. With this advancement, Gemini, Google's AI-powered assistant, is set to revolutionize the experiences of over 3 billion users, offering seamless support for their daily tasks and video content creation. Video content creation. That is quite interesting. One of the key enhancements to Google Workspace is its fortified defense against spam, particularly in Gmail and during meetings. The platform now boasts a remarkable 20% reduction in spam, providing users with a cleaner inbox experience. Additionally, Google Workspace is now equipped to respond to phishing-related complaints a staggering 90% faster, offering a heightened protection for files stored in Google Drive. Administrators also gain new capabilities, including the ability to classify sensitive documents and files using AI-powered data leak prevention controls. So data leak prevention is obviously not a new thing, but the better that AI gets and the better that it can classify some of this data based on patterns or based on other aspects, certainly that helps companies and helps keep data secure and protect data from leaving the organization, right? If you're not familiar with all this talk about spam, one thing that Google has recently talked about, and we covered it in another episode as well of this show, of the Cyber Threat Intel show, but that they were going to be a lot stricter on identifying spam and how they classify spam at Google. So especially with things like newsletters and email marketing and those kinds of things, those are a lot of what they were going after. But really, people that are sending just mass emails out to, email addresses within Google, within Gmail. Now, I said this before, I wish I could just block all Gmail email addresses because, man, there is so much spam coming from within Gmail. So I wonder what they're going to do for that, because I see a ton of spam that is literally a Gmail email address, right? I see it from Outlook too, but I'd like to see that happen, right? It says, however, amidst the excitement or surrounding these new features, some users have encountered challenges. Reports have surfaced regarding emails missing from inboxes, with many being diverted to spam folders. That's the part of tuning, right? Whenever you implement something, you're going to have this tuning period, just no matter how well that you tested it, right? You're always going to have some tuning that you have to do to improve whatever you've implemented. So service, a filter, a rule set, firewall rules, whatever, right? Like all of that stuff is going to need some level of tuning that you're going to have to do when you implement it. So keep that in mind, right? Nothing that you're going to implement is going to be perfect. Not a code fix, not a software implementation, not a firewall rule set, nothing, right? You're always going to have to tune it some. So, Google, though, if you can hear me, please prevent as much spam coming from your platform as possible. Outlook too, right? Microsoft and Google. Your platforms are both major offenders. I'm sorry to tell you, but I see a lot of it. Next article here, GHC SCW ransomware gang stole health data of 533,000 people. Nonprofit healthcare service provider Group Health Cooperative of South Central Wisconsin, so GHC SCW, has disclosed that a ransomware gang breached its network in January and stole documents containing the personal information and medical information of over 500,000 individuals. However, the attackers couldn't encrypt the compromised devices, which allowed GHC SCW to secure its systems with the help of external cyber incident response experts and bring them back online after they were isolated to contain the breach. So I find this interesting, right? The attackers couldn't encrypt the compromised devices. So typically with ransomware, what you see and what the attack basically is that attackers are going to start encrypting data, encrypting files, and then essentially lock you out of the system and require you to pay in Bitcoin or pay a ransom, right? Ransomware. And then once you pay that ransom, if they are, I guess, nice attackers, right? Like if they do what they say they're going to do, then they'll give you the decryption key. You can decrypt all your data and you can get it back, right? That's the idea with ransomware. But in this situation, that kind of goes against their business logic, right? Their business plan, if you will, right? Because they couldn't even compromise the devices. So that is a failed attempt, right? That is a smack my head kind of attempt. Let's give it up for that attacking group, right? For failure. So it is always interesting to see attackers try these like attacks that are really annoying and then they fail, right? Yeah, the attackers were just beginners like us. Exactly, right? They didn't know what they were doing. They were script kiddies, maybe, right? That's not uncommon. But we don't always see incidents like this where they just straight up fail, right? So it's great. It makes you kind of nod your head and appreciate good security. Jeffrey says possibly the data was already encrypted. Maybe. I mean, I don't know if it says it in here. Let's keep going. Health data stolen during the January ransomware attack includes affected individual names, addresses, telephone numbers, email addresses, dates of births, and or deaths, social security numbers, member numbers, and Medicare and or Medicaid numbers. Although it didn't provide the exact number of affected people, additional information shared with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services shows that the data breach impacted 533,809 individuals. So going back to your comment, it appears that they were able to get the data, right? They were able to get the PHI. They just weren't able to encrypt the systems. So they got access to the data, but they weren't able to hold the people ransom for ransom by encrypting their systems, which is kind of, again, it's not the typical kind of path that this happens, right? Because typically what they say is, we will release your data or we will sell it to somebody else or to the highest bidder if you don't pay us, and you won't have access to that data. Typically, it's multi-prong, kind of multi-stage aspects to that, right? In response to the incident, GHC SCW says it took security measures to prevent such breaches from happening again, including strengthening existing controls, data backup, and user training. So they are taking it a step further so that they can go ahead and prevent these attacks from happening in the future. Now, key point here, and I say this a lot, especially when we're talking about ransomware, but if your company gets breached, if you suffer ransomware events, you almost always get tested again, right? They will almost always come back and see if you've fixed anything. So they are saying they are fixing things. They better be fixing things. And as Jeffrey points out, lessons learned, absolutely, right? These are things as part of the incident response process of preparing, and then you identify incidents, you contain them, you eradicate them, you recover, and then you document lessons learned. You document root cause analysis, those kinds of things. So they're going to test them again, and we'll see, in a week, in a month, in a year, if they get tested again and what that outcome is. Because you better believe it, if they get tested again and they fail again, it's going to be in the news for sure. And they will look even worse because they didn't do things to actually prevent that or actually identify the root cause of what allowed this to happen, right? That is the key with any kind of attack or any kind of security incident. You have to get that root cause, right? You have to identify what actually allowed this to happen or to happen to such a significant level. So very important aspect of compliance, of audits, of failures in security, of just improving your security plan. And especially once you've been breached and you have, an idea of what happened. So very important. Article also says while the Wisconsin-based healthcare nonprofit didn't reveal the name of the threat group behind the January breach, the Black Suit ransomware gang claimed the attack in March. So they know who is claiming it, right? So we can attribute it most likely to this certain group. We can identify motives. We can identify techniques that they used or that they have used against other victims and start building a profile against this group that we can use to defend our organization, right? Like that is how it works. And that's the basis of threat intelligence, right? Is trying to attribute attacks and techniques to certain groups. And that way, when you start looking at this, you can implement better controls to defend against those motives and those techniques, and you can just make your program better overall, right? So it is very important to do that. Recent breaches in India shipping industry. Yeah, I mean, a lot of different industries are having breaches, right? We've seen it with shipping industries. We've seen it with healthcare industries. We see it with retailers almost all the time. Nobody is immune to this stuff, right? If you have something that is of value or that goes against whatever these groups' beliefs are, you're probably going to get tested, right? So it is important that you really take security seriously and implement the controls that are going to help you prevent these kinds of attacks. Ransomware attacks are definitely a thing that is very consistent in today's world, and they weren't, 20 years ago. That was not a thing 20 years ago. All right, some good articles here for sure. Next article here, Microsoft employee exposed internal passwords in security labs. Ready for this one? This one's going to be an interesting one. Security researchers Can Ulary, Murat Azfadan, and Egemen, I'm not sure how to say that last name, with SOC Radar, a cybersecurity company that helps organizations find security weaknesses, discovered an open and public storage server hosted on Microsoft's Azure cloud service that was storing internal information related to Microsoft's Bing search engine. Bing is in the news. The Azure storage server housed code, scripts, and configuration files containing passwords, keys, and credentials used by the Microsoft employees for accessing other internal databases and systems. So sensitive data here, sensitive credentials. But the storage server itself was not protected with a password and could be accessed by anyone on the internet. Let's take a second to just let that sink in while you facepalm your head.
No!
What the heck? So, credentials stored on Azure, right, by Microsoft employees left available to everybody on the internet. That is like so bad, so bad, right? I wish I had a giant facepalm, smack my head emoji that I just had pop up. Maybe I'll add that to the show, right? Because sometimes we get these incidents that are just, dough. Actually, that's what I need too. I need a Homer Doe sound clip because that's just crazy, right? Now, we have seen one of the things that we've seen, a decent amount in cloud providers, in Dropbox locations, in GitHub repositories. We do occasionally see clear text credentials or, important credentials, right? It's typically not always employee specific credentials, place specific credentials. A lot of times it is like service accounts or things like that. But, nonetheless, when it's service accounts, when it's employee information, doesn't matter, right? Like sensitive information, secrets, credentials, passwords, login accounts, those kinds of things are a huge no-no when you are hard coding them or putting them anywhere where they're going to be accessible by a lot of people. You have to have them encrypted. You have to have them not accessible without authentication and all kinds of other things in place because it can be really bad for you, right? Like it can be a bad situation. It's not known for how long the cloud server was exposed to the internet or if anyone other than SOC Radar discovered the exposed data inside. When reached by email, a spokesperson from Microsoft did not provide comment by the time of the publication. Microsoft did not say if it had reset or changed any of the exposed internal credentials. So Microsoft is on the hot seat. If you didn't catch the article in was it the last episode or was it last week, or a couple episodes ago? But Microsoft is well, they're in the hot seat for security, right? This is the latest security gaffe at Microsoft as the company tries to rebuild trust with its customers after a series of cloud security incidents in recent years. In a similar security lapse last year, researchers found that Microsoft employees were exposing their own corporate network logins in code published to GitHub. Let that sink in for a second. So this is not the first time that credentials have been out there, and not the first time employee credentials have been out there, especially network login creds, right? Logging into their domain. Oh my goodness. Microsoft also came under fire last year after the company admitted it did not know how China-backed hackers stole an internal email signing key that allowed the hackers broad access to Microsoft-hosted inboxes by senior U.S. government officials. An independent board of cyber experts tasked with investigating the email breach wrote in their report published last week that the hackers succeeded, and this is a quote, because of a cascade of security failures at Microsoft. We talked about this again a couple episodes ago. Despite being a major important company for a lot of organizations because of Windows and Azure and all these things, they are not doing basic security hygiene, right? They are missing out on these basic kind of things that they should be doing and that are relatively simple and should be kind of common sense, right? Especially in a company like that where they should have a decent understanding of what is security and what's not. It sounds like some employees need to go through security awareness training again. That is my security opinion on that. And that's what I would tell any executive or anybody that has questions about this. That'd be a good first step. There's probably some other things that need to happen in there too. You just can't make this stuff up, right? Just can't make it up. Jeffrey Christian says, I think I figured out how the hackers got in. Yeah, through the front door. They had the creds, right? It is just very interesting sometimes when this stuff pops up. And the bad thing too is that I know that kind of the default response is like, well, obviously it's the security people's fault. It's not always the case, right? Like sometimes you either don't have a good security culture or you just have not emphasized security enough. You have users that just don't care. You don't have enough security controls in place to prevent some of this stuff, right? And it's just, there's a lot of reasons why this stuff can happen, but that's bad, right? That is not great. But yeah, they went in the front door. Didn't even get checked. It's bad. It's bad. Not good. So I just, like, if I could keep just being and keep playing that, every article, I think we'd probably be better off, right? It's probably worth it. It's probably every article that we cover is probably in a lot of cases worthy of that, right? So, oh boy. So, also, just a reminder that if you are tuning in for the first time or you're just tuning in, we are going to have an after show after the Cyber Threat Intel articles. So make sure that you hang around for that, and we will do some question and answer and after show kind of things. So I just want to make sure that I brought that up again. Now, the next article here, over 90,000 LG smart TVs may be exposed to remote hackers. And also make sure that make sure that you're subscribing and liking the content and everything like that, doing all the YouTube stuff, right? Security researchers at Bitdefender have discovered 4 vulnerabilities impacting multiple versions of WebOS, the operating system used in LG smart TVs. The flaws enable varying degrees of unauthorized access and control over affected models, including authorization bypasses, privilege escalation, and command injection. The potential attacks hinge on the ability to create arbitrary accounts on the device using a service that runs on ports 3000 and 3001, which is available for smartphone connectivity simply using a pen. Right? And they give an image of an example of what this looks like. So we've seen stuff like this, right? You just enter a pen, maybe connect via Wi-Fi or something, and then you're able to get into these kinds of devices. Now, Bitdefender explains that although the vulnerable LG WebOS service is supposed to be used only in local area networks, so LAN settings, Shodan, which is a popular internet search engine where you can find internet-connected devices, very interesting if you're into cybersecurity and you want to see some stuff. Just remember, if you click on some of this stuff, you cannot unsee what you might see, so be careful. But Shodan internet scans show 91,000 exposed devices that are potentially vulnerable to the flaws. So 91,000 devices. And they give a breakdown of where a lot of these are. Over 50,000 of them are in Korea, and then Hong Kong, United States, Sweden, Finland, Latvia, Spain, Chile, Canada, and Poland. The 4 flaws are summarized as follows, and they give the 4 different CVEs here. So CVE 2023-6317 allows attackers to bypass the TV's authorization mechanism by exploiting a variable setting, enabling the addition of extra user to the TV without proper authorization. So you can add another account. CVE 2023-6318 is an elevation of privileges, so PrivAsk vulnerability. Let's see here. CVE 2023-6319 involves operating system command injection via manipulation of a library. CVE 2023-6320 permits authenticated command injection by exploiting the com.webos.service.connection manager /TV/set VLAN static address API endpoint, enabling command execution as the dbus user, which has similar permissions to the root user. So that's a big one too. So what is so important about this, right? Obviously, this is about consumer electronics, but think about this. We kind of touched on this in the, I think it was the first or second article, and that's why I said we'll talk about that a little bit later. But think about your organization, right? So if you work at a company and you have these kind of devices, are you updating them, right? Are you paying attention to the networks that they're connected to? Are they connected to IoT networks? Are they connected to your main network? Do they authenticate through your main network, right? Those are all important questions, because if your main network has these devices on them and they're vulnerable, and you've just introduced vulnerabilities that can be exploited onto your main network, right? That is a serious issue that people do not always think about. They don't always think about their IoT devices, their refrigerators, their connected microwaves, whatever, right? Like all these connected devices. And if you don't consider them and you don't update them, right, you're probably going to get breached via one of these devices. So it is very important that you pay attention to all devices on your networks, at home, at the workplace, in your company, wherever, right? Because, you know, a lot of these kinds of devices especially don't always have the same levels of security that that you would expect a device on your network to have. So very important thing to talk about, very important thing to consider. And I definitely cannot stress that enough. So with that being said, that is the last article for this episode of Cyber Threat Intel. Again, this is episode number 15. It is Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. I'm your host, John Good. Depending on where you're listening or watching this show from, remember there's a couple different ways you can find out where we're at or listen based on your preference. We are available on the John Good Cyber YouTube channel, LinkedIn page, so my page, which is John Good Cyber, the John Good Cyber Twitter or X account, as well as the John Good Cyber page on Facebook. If you want to watch the live stream or the video format, we always encourage people to join the live, or you can watch the replay as well. If you go to cyberthreatintel.com, you can find out all the podcasting platforms that we're on, or you could just go search on your favorite platform, Spotify, iTunes, whatever, right? Like there's a whole bunch of them that you can find. But if you also go to the website, cyberthreatintel.com, again, cyberthreatintel.com, you can find the article feed so you can see all these articles that we cover, and you can read more into them if you want. We also add other articles that are not covered in the show, but they are valuable and they're worth reading. So definitely recommend checking that out. You can see all the highlights and notes that we make and everything like that. Very worthwhile. And then also, we always thank our sponsor, Cyber Training Pro, because they help make the content that we deliver possible to you. And if you're a company and you're interested in sponsoring content, check out the description, because there is more information about how you can sponsor content and initiate that conversation. So with that being said, we are going to real quick do a ad for Cyber Training Pro, and then we will flip over to the after show for Cyber Threat Intel. So if you're not hanging around, appreciate you being here, and I'll see you in the next one. If you are hanging out, then I will see you in a couple minutes here. Are you tired of overpaying for cybersecurity training? Are you interested in training from industry professionals? Are you looking for cybersecurity career services? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then cybertrainingpro.com is the perfect platform for you. At Cyber Training Pro, we're a one-stop shop for all your cybersecurity needs. We can train you for industry certifications or just improve your overall knowledge and skills in a certain area. Unlike other platforms, we don't stop there. We can also coach you throughout your career, practice your interview skills, or create a high-performing resume with our career services. CybertrainingPro.com isn't just another training platform. Students get exclusive access to our private community, where we go beyond training courses to provide additional content, tips and tricks, and engagement with both other students and staff. Look, by the year 2025, there could be as many as 3.5 million job openings in cybersecurity. With so much opportunity, why not maximize your career potential with a platform that cares about your success? Come join us at cybertrainingpro.com and start building your future today. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I just want to make sure that my audio is coming through good. It should be, yep, okay, cool. So, flip over to the second set here. So, haven't been using this as much as we should be, but we are definitely going to be using this quite a bit more for the after shows here, and for some other content as well. So let me know if you can hear me okay. Check the volume and everything like that. So we should be good. But yeah, a little bit different view than the main screen. We have the background here, which is pretty awesome, and then obviously we have the chat on the screen too, and just a more chill environment. Jeffrey says, sounds good here. Awesome. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. So, how are you guys liking the Cyber Threat Intel content? I know that we've had a lot of people that have been joining from all across the different platforms. So again, I mean, this episode we did on YouTube, we did it on LinkedIn, we did it on Twitter, we did it on Facebook as well. So we've been having a lot of success with that. So I am enjoying doing those episodes. Plus, too, It helps keep me current with everything that's going on as well. So overall, it is quite valuable. So this is something cool too that I like with this setup in general. But so this is cool to be able to put comments on the screen and everything too. I did this in the last after show too, because this is a great way to get your question on the show and not just in the chat. But first show was notified by LinkedIn, was fun. Yeah, Jeffrey, I was going to say that I don't remember seeing you before on the chat for the stream, so extremely happy to have you joining, and really anybody joining, right? Anybody joining live or watching the replay, but especially on the live streams, it's really nice to have people hop on that we can interact, kind of go back and forth about the different content, different articles and things like that are going on. So always a great time. Again, I enjoy doing those shows and enjoy talking about the content. So absolutely. So let's see. Doesn't look like we have a whole bunch of questions. I mean, I'll definitely give it a few more minutes here just to see if anybody thinks about any questions or anything that they want to cover. Now, there was one that we'll talk about here for a second. I'll pull this up here. Yeah, and Jeffrey says, was wrong on target date was 2013. He's an article in 2016, master's paperwork. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I thought that was a little bit earlier than that. Because I was originally thinking like 2016 to 2017, but that's kind of what I remembered, was that it seemed like it was earlier than that, because I think that happened like right around the time that I went back to school for my master's, or during it. So, and that 2013 would have been during that program. So that makes a lot more sense as far as the timeline. So yeah, it kind of dribbled out as far as the kind of slowly leaked out as far as the information about it and like what actually happened. Because it was a huge deal, and then found out that there was a little bit more to the story than had originally been disclosed. So for sure. So I'm going to put this back up here. So we aren't going to go through 10 to 15 specializations for sure. That's just too many. That's just, a lot. But there are all kinds of different areas or different master's programs that exist for cybersecurity. One of the things that I always tell people, and it does depend on where you live, right? But because I'm in the United States, that tends to be, if I create a little bit more specific information towards a locale, it does tend to be the United States, just because that's what I'm most familiar with, and things are a little bit more specific compared to other areas. But what I'll say is that a lot of the master's programs tend to be very general, right? What I tell people in the United States is, if you're going to go for a master's degree program, start with the NSA Centers of Academic Excellence. It's a whole list of universities and colleges that have to follow a very specific curriculum in order to be on that list and get funding and things like that. So I always tell people, start with that list and then kind of work from there, right? As far as specializations though, a lot of these programs don't have a ton of specializations, right? They might have an offensive specialization or a defensive specialization or a policy specialization, kind of a GRC realm type of thing, or a digital forensics specialization. Those tend to be the most common specializations that exist. You don't tend to see anything really outside of that, because honestly, that's kind of the majority of where a lot of jobs fall, especially if they keep it kind of high level like that. But A lot of the master's programs, they're trying to get you a certain set of curriculum to prepare you. And then beyond that, it's kind of up to you to find out, oh, do I want to specialize in like threat intelligence or penetration testing, web hacking, those kinds of further specializations that you might actually go into working when you actually get into the field. So that's really what I wanted to hit on for that specific comment, because there's not really as many specializations in those programs, in the university programs, that you would think there would be, because they just don't have that time to cover everything that you would need and hit on the specializations. So keep that in mind, right? All right, so if you're just starting out in cybersecurity, would you recommend a laptop, desktop, and which ones? So this is from Marco. So it really comes down to what your needs are, what you're doing. Are you in a college program? If you're in a college program, now are you on site or are you mobile? Typically, especially if you're with a college program, I would tend to recommend most likely being a laptop. Again, a lot of this stuff is situationally dependent, but if you're in a college program and you have to go on site, especially, so into the classroom, then you're going to need something that's obviously portable. Now, with a laptop versus a desktop, you do lose some of that flexibility as far as being able to upgrade your parts, how much RAM you have, those kinds of things. I did create a video on computers and which parts that I would recommend for that. So the RAM, the hard drive space, all those kinds of things. I highly recommend going to check out that video because it is situationally dependent, but there are some components that are very specific as far as minimums that I do recommend. And again, it's all in that video. I break it down and give some good examples of specific kinds of parts that I would look for. The brand itself doesn't really matter a lot as long as you check those boxes on those parts. And then especially with like graphics cards don't really matter for cybersecurity specific things. A lot of people tend to think that graphics cards are really important for all aspects of computing, but if you're just going to use it for cybersecurity, graphics card is definitely not the most important part. I guess unless you're cracking passwords, then it might matter a little bit, right? Let's see what time we have here. Okay. Let's see here. Let's throw this one up there. So is 35 too old to try and break into cybersecurity straying from unrelated field? No, right? We have people all over as far as the age spectrum, age range that get into cybersecurity. At different age levels or different ages, you're going to bring different things to the table than you will at other ages, right? If you are 35, for example, right, like you are, then you're going to bring some level of professional experience. It might not be in something related, but you're going to have that professional proficiency, so the ability to communicate, most likely to write, to deal with people, to work with groups of people, presenting things, all those kinds of things that maybe a 22-year-old either doesn't have or is not very developed in bringing, right? You might even have some leadership skills that you can bring to the table. So you're going to bring things to the table that others, especially younger than you, are maybe not going to bring to the table. And especially if they're just out of a degree program, a college degree program, then they're probably not going to have that stuff, or it's not going to be very developed, right? So keep that in mind as you're trying to get into the career field, that it is not just about the technical skills. There's a whole lot more that goes into being a qualified professional and a competitive candidate when you're trying to go for the jobs. Now, it doesn't matter that you get the knowledge, get the technical skills and the information, of course, but again, you're going to bring things that are going to be of value for companies and that they'll like to see, right? And especially depending on the area that you're going into, that will vary as well, right? Like how much that matters and what skill sets are important. But keep that in mind, right? Like 35 is not even that old, right? So But we have people that are 40, 45, 50, 60 years old that are getting into cybersecurity. So 35 is definitely not too old. Yeah, and actually, before I put this up here, so just to follow on that, Jeffrey says, I'm 47 and trying to break into the cyber world. So yeah, like hang in there, right? 35 is not too old. It's always interesting when people think that like 30s is too old to make a change. So it is not. Got a master's degree and about 16 certs and cannot even get a junior analyst position interview at the moment. I mean, there's definitely some information here that I'd be curious about, because especially with like 16 certifications and a master's degree, that's a lot. So if you can't get an interview, you might be applying to jobs that you're overqualified for, and then it's on paper, you're definitely overqualified for. So that is definitely kind of a situation where I would probably steer you more towards signing up for career coaching on Cyber Training Pro. So again, that's where I put all my courses and do all my coaching. But you know, looking at that, a lot of times it's because you're either overqualified for the jobs you're applying to and they don't want to touch you because you're overqualified for what they're looking for, or you just appear overqualified, or your resume just is not correctly constructed for those kinds of jobs, or in the way that they're expecting it, right? Like there's a lot to be desired from that question or from that statement, especially going for a junior position, right? Like my first instinct, without even knowing anything else, you have a master's degree and 16 certs, is that you're probably overqualified or seen as overqualified. So definitely maybe in the comments, you know, leave a little bit more information, or honestly, more so, I would look at career coaching and signing up for some career coaching with me, because that is probably going to be a scenario that we're going to have to dive a little bit deeper into, why you're not able to land an interview. Because technically with all of that, you should be able to land an interview. So, but again, there's probably more to the story than we're able to put into the chat. So then yeah, your follow-up, think it's mostly companies that are wanting active security clearances or practical experience. That's possible. I mean, I help people that are brand new to the industry, get into the career field all the time. So that have honestly a lot less than you do. So it may be that, depending on the kind of jobs you're applying to, about the clearances, but it may also be some other things that are going on, or that we need to kind of shift or reword or restructure or kind of fill out that story. I would also watch the video that I did on resumes, because I went through my resume in a video on my channel, and that will give you some more insight as far as like what a resume should look like. But again, I mean, I think that that's a really good candidate for signing up for coaching for sure. All right. Well, I think with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, because we've been doing this stream for a little bit here, a little over an hour. And, you know, that is quite the long time for the stream. A little bit of time for the after show after. So I love doing these after shows. We're going to keep doing the after shows for other episodes. We're not going to do it every episode, so make sure that you tune into that. But I'd like to try to do it maybe every other episode, or at least once per week with the episodes. So again, stay tuned for that, and we'll kind of play it by ear, and we'll see how often we need to do it to make sure that we get people's questions answered. Also, check out my Discord, because I am starting to do some monthly AMAs and stuff like that, Ask Me Anythings for cybersecurity and those kinds of things, where we can dive a little bit deeper into certain things, or kind of have some follow-on questions with that as well. So definitely check that out. Check out Cyber Training Pro, of course, with all the content there and all the coaching and courses and stuff. And keep tuning in for the live streams, right? For the Cyber Threat Intel shows. We're gonna keep doing these. We're gonna keep going over articles. We're gonna make sure that you're getting the information that you need for your career to stay current and to continue to grow and evolve as a professional. Again, I love doing those shows. I love interacting with everybody on this and really seeing your comments and your questions and everything like that. So I'm excited for the future, and I'm glad that you're here to share it with me. Again, we're gonna keep doing this stuff. We're gonna keep bringing in all the different platforms and talking to everybody and making sure that you get the information that you need. So with that being said, again, it's Wednesday, and we're gonna wrap it up for this episode. And like always, I'll see you in the next one. See you later.